Hi, Dr. Lindsey here. This video will discuss how we do FUEs, but I'm going to use plants as an analogy. You know, with FUE, you take a circular punch and you come in over top of the hair shaft and go down to the skin and go down to about the level of the root ball, and then the technician grasps the hair and the epithelium and lifts up. This avulses the lowest tissue off the bottom of the root ball, and that certainly stresses the hair. Using this video where we use plants, I'll show you how this is done. And in particular with plants, let's imagine you were trying to transplant a tree in your front yard. You take a shovel and you go around the tree, down 6 inches, 12 inches, however deep the root ball is, and then you grasp the tree trunk or the stalk of the plant and lift up. And although you've separated using the sharp instrument the lateral root fibers, you still have vertical roots coming off of the deep aspect of the root ball. And when you lift it up, you're ripping those off, you're avulsing it. Same thing happens with FUE. And in particular with fine hair, like skinny plants, those root balls are stressed significantly. And I'll show with this video, using some herbs, that skinny herbs just have less resilience to that avulsion than thicker, beefier herbs do. And similarly with patient hair, if you're a person with very fine hair and you want a big FUE case, I just think that there's a significant chance that multiple avulsions from your donor region are going to result in less health to your transplanted root balls. With thicker, beefier hair, I think you can get away with a whole lot more, much like you can get away with more when you transplant a thicker, beefier herb or evergreen tree. Just a bigger root ball can tolerate that avulsion stress better than a fine, delicate plant can. I hope you find this video helpful. This is very similar to FUE. You can imagine that these would be the donor sites in the back of the head. We essentially make, using a circular punch, we incise the skin all around, and then when you lift up, you're pulling the root out. Now, this little plant came in a package where it's not stuck to the surrounding tissue, and most importantly, the bottom isn't stuck on anything. But you can imagine in a human head, this bottom, even though we've made a circle around the root itself, that bottom, the root is actually still stuck. And so when you lift up on this fragile little root ball, it stresses the entire root. So on skinny little plants like this, or thin, fine hair, the risk of damaging that root ball significantly is pretty high. Now, big old beefy horsey roots, which I'll show you in a second, they typically wouldn't be damaged so much, but this is very fragile. This is a great example of a fine-haired person's single or double FUE. And you take it out, again, we're lifting it up by just up this, and we take it over and we put it down into the recipient site as gently as possible. You have much more freedom with larger and sturdier grafts than you do with these little skinny singles. Okay. Okay, so again, this would be maybe a medium thickness triple FUE, and it's got a thicker haired person has a bigger root bulb, and you can be a little less ginger with it, although we try to be very ginger and gentle with each graft. But you just have a little more freedom and safety buffer on these bigger root bulbs. Finally, let's look at this thicker, beefier plants. Even though it's FUE and we have to be careful with it, now this is more like FUE. It is almost stuck into the package. So with in a human scalp, we'd go around with a little 18 gauge needle and free up around the edges so that it comes out much easier. So then you lift this boy up, and you've got, it's not as resilient as a strip quality graft being cut by a technician under a microscope, but there's a lot of safety here. There's a lot of extra dirt and meat that typically we don't see with the automated FUE machines. The hand technique that a lot of us use and hand removal, you can preserve this root ball, which makes it a much sturdier tree or plant or hair or what have you. Then we take it and we put it in gently into the recipient site. And can you come a little closer? So people sometimes ask, what are all these white dots on the back of their head, or in the front of their head, or in the recipient area? And the answer is very similar to this plant, although I'm going to have to come with some extra dirt. You essentially put the root down in the soil, but you don't put it down too low, otherwise water will pool and rot the stalk. And in people, if you put the top layer too low, skin will grow under and give you a scalp cyst. So again, we leave things up just a little bit. And then between the last set of plants and this one, my wife said, oh, we have to go get some water to put on the plant, because right as soon as you put it in, if you don't get water on the plants, it'll dry out. That's exactly why a big FUE session is really important, to keep the grafts cool and moist until they're ready to be placed. We put them in as fast as possible, and I like to get them in the head by 5 hours, because you leave these boys out for a while, they're going to dry out and the chances of success drop off dramatically. So can we leave the root ball up just slightly with respect to the surrounding scalp skin or dirt, so that water doesn't pool on the root or on the main stem itself and rot it, or in people so that the epithelium doesn't grow underneath the nearby scalp skin, causing cysts. So I hope you found that video helpful. Make sure you do plenty of research. Decide, number one, do you want a hair transplant? Number two, is FUE your preferred technique, or is strip your preferred technique? Do plenty of research. And if FUE is your preferred technique, just understand the limitations that FUE has, and in particular, if you have very fine hair, that your root balls may be stressed more than the roots can handle. Thank you.